Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Note After Note podcast. I'm your host, Jayson Gallardo, and I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Here on the Note After Note podcast, we talk about music, songwriting, producing, and so much more. If you're new to the podcast, I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and musician. I've been doing music for about a year now, and I've been singing since I was just a little kid. The memories of singing with my mom in the car are one of my favorites. Overall, music is a big passion of mine, and I could talk about it for hours. Now, let's get into today's episode. Today is January 10th, 2025, and today we are going to talk about my debut album, A Broken Mind, and the process of making the album. Before A Broken Mind was even created, there was an album called School Life that I was writing. It was extremely terrible, and I ended up not following through with it. At the time, I had recently gotten broken up with, and I was really hurt by it because dealing with a tough breakup was hard, and I didn't really know how to control my feelings. So that's why School Life wasn't finished, and I'm kind of glad it wasn't. And it wasn't really good, but eventually A Broken Mind came to be. And the concept behind it wasn't just about the breakup, it's about a mind that was lost, someone who is going through a lot. And that person was me. The first song of the album, Jay's Thoughts, is about entering my mind. The harmonies at the beginning represent this sort of entrance into my broken mind, and it's explaining how I overthink and how I zone out when that happens. With every track, I want to capture a thought or feeling I've experienced, and it's something I tend to dwell on. Originally, A Broken Mind had 17 tracks, but I wanted to release it on my 16th birthday, so because of that, track 16, Will You Forgive Me, didn't make it on time. It was a beautiful song, but honestly, the album turned out just the way it needed to be, and I wouldn't change a thing. Now, let's get to talking about the singles. The first one that dropped was My Bullies Haunt Me on April 21st, 2023. Before I even moved here, where I live now, in my fourth grade year, I was bullied by my classmates. They called me names which are actually mentioned in the song. And those are the ones that hurt the most. All I wanted was to be their friend, but they chose hatred. Years later, I found one of their Instagram accounts and messaged them, but they seemed genuinely disappointed when they remembered who I was. That bullying left a huge mark on my childhood, and writing that pain into a song I hadn't done was something I hadn't done before. Especially when it came to producing the music myself. I didn't even know how to play piano or make music at the time, but somehow I got through it and released my first single. Yeah, so the next single on the album was Scared of Losing You. This song is about finding someone who finally gives you the time of day, someone who cares about you deeply, and realizing that you can't imagine your life without them. It's that overwhelming fear of losing someone who's become so important to you. And I've felt that so many times in the relationships I've had, and it's just hard to think about losing that person you care about so much. Now, I want to clarify that none of my songs are specifically about people, but rather they are inspired by real experience with people. You know, I could easily say this song is about this person, but the truth is it's more about the emotions and the feelings they evoke rather than a direct reflection of them, if you see what I'm saying. What I really loved about Scared of Losing You was the way it transitioned into My Bullies Haunt Me, the first single of the album. The transition was unique. It was just rain sounds and chopped up vocals of me singing the chorus. And, it created this eerie connection between the two songs, and it was kind of experimental and stuff like that. And though it was a little unconventional, it worked kind of. When I went back to listen to the transition on the album, it wasn't as clean or fluid as I had imagined. There was this weird pause, and it broke the effect I was going for when transitioning to both songs. Still, even with the little imperfection, I still love the album, and it turned out amazing. Um, it's just a moment of vulnerability that shows how far I've come with this project and how I've learned so much throughout this whole process. Okay, this is like totally off script, but we're gonna talk about a song that I barely worked on, but somehow it's people's favorite off the album. It's called Letters of My Past. And that song was the least worked on throughout the whole album. I mean, I guess you could say I Don't Deserve a Good Life, he said, was the least worked on. But out of songs, it was the least worked on out of the whole album. I did not work on it, but it was my first time doing drums by myself. I usually had like pre-made drums on GarageBand when I made the song. And I was like, why do you guys like this song so much? I mean, the beat drop is nice, but I barely even worked on it. But I don't know. I guess it kind of has this bittersweet kind of feeling to it. Um, and I like the weird unintentional transition to I Miss You. Like the little synth, it goes up and then it just goes dun, 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 to I Miss You. And I like it. It was very fluid. And yeah, so speaking of I Miss You, the final single of the album was I Miss You. This one was a little different because it was about a specific person, a breakup that happened a while ago but still sticks with me. She was an actress in the production of Little Shop of Horrors in my school, and I had been holding feelings for her for a long time. Before every show in theater, we had did something called Secret Pals. So I decided to write a big note about 12 by 14 inches and slip it into her locker. I remember it was opening night and I was sitting in the audience just so nervous and excited. But what I remember most clearly was seeing her on stage for the first time in her costume. There was this moment when I looked up and there she was, my crush, performing under the lights. I was completely in awe. And my poor best friend, who was sitting right next to me, probably had no idea what was going on in my mind. But then, in the middle of her scene, she found a way to wave at me from stage. I'm serious, her smile shone so brightly that my heart just melted. After the show, she ran up to me and gave me a hug, and in that moment, everything felt perfect. But the breakup was really tough. I loved her, and even though things didn't work out, I still have that love for her, just in a different way now. I loved having that experience, that feeling of being so captivated by someone. I Miss You was in many ways my way of grieving. It was me processing those emotions of just wanting her back, even though I knew it wasn't possible. The song turned out amazing, though. It really captured what I wanted to say and the way I felt seeing her on that stage. It just made my heart flutter when she waved at me, you know? Looking back, it was such a beautiful, bittersweet experience, and I'm grateful for it. That song will always have a special place in my heart. Unfortunately, that is all we have today. I could ramble all about my first album and the behind the scenes of it forever, but it has to come to an end. I want to thank you all for listening to the second episode of the Note After Note podcast. Make sure to stream my first album, A Broken Mind, and feel free to check out any of my other music as well. Follow me on my Instagram at jason.j.gallardo, as well as my other socials on TikTok and YouTube with the same @. Also, don't forget to follow the Note After Note podcast Instagram at note.after.note. And I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Just know, if you listen to music, note after note, it tells a story. Keep listening to music one note at a time, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye now.